Hey, what is up? I'm back, and I know in my last video about Family Promise, I had ended it like feeling pretty passionate, and I said it to be continued. I didn't go back. I didn't go back to see like what exactly it was, because I don't know why. I really don't know why. So here I am. But I am going to speak from my heart, and I'm just gonna pray first. Dear Heavenly Father, you know, great, mysterious, powerful, unimaginable force that is of light and is that of Christ. I pray that you and the Holy Spirit and Jesus and all of the good teachers, Buddha, Allah, all of those representatives who have come before in the past, I ask you to give me the correct words to help support the people of this planet, as grandiose as that might sound, and help me pour insight, love, compassion, and hope. Amen. Okay. So, I have a secret, and another one, you know, and that is, you know, it's probably not that big of a secret, but it might be one of the reasons why sometimes I kind of get that reaction like I'm fake. And I think I know why, and that is because I'm intelligent, and you know, like, I guess if you're an intelligent person and you know, are listening to how I speak, you might have caught on. I have gone through life pretending like I'm dumb because it makes life safer. And I think that might be a really good topic, because it's unfortunate, and our entire community suffers when people who have something to give, like a purpose and strengths, they're there for a reason, and it might not be as grandiose as some of us hope, you know, because we want to help. I want to help as many people as possible. It could be that we're helping one person at a time. It could be that we're helping 10. It doesn't matter. Just the fact that we're helping is the point. And so I come to this prepared for a million faces to look at mine, but I also come prepared for one, you know, and that's okay, because ideas are like plants and they grow. And so a seed that I plant in one mind can produce many fruits, in that that person can take that thought or idea and hopefully fine tune it with their lived experience and be able to pass it on. And so if you look at that as like a pyramid, you know, like it can continue to grow. And so I don't know if I will ever be able to see, you know, in this lifetime, like in my face, like positive results. Like, don't get me wrong, working in addiction, I would get to see positive results, but I'm hoping to get a different kind of positive results and result, built on top of hopefully some fundamentals that I've been lucky to fine tune as I teach to other people. And so the parts, oh my goodness, the parts. So our society has been flipped backwards, and I'm going to speculate that the Cold War never ended. I don't know, maybe different players have played musical chairs, and I believe that for whatever reason, a lot of our situations have been used to learn by powers outside of us, used to learn weaknesses and stuff like that. And so something that I noticed that could be perceived as like, I don't know, out there, I got, I don't know if I want to call it a download. I had an epiphany. Well, it wasn't really my epiphany. Sometimes they're my epiphanies, and sometimes it's like, what? But I had a feeling, and so I was probably watching, a video about Russia and their leader, and they mentioned something about, oh no, actually it was one of those days where I swear the AI algorithm or whoever's behind it, like, sometimes will just kind of put these videos in order to where you kind of like see a thread. And so it was a video about Russia and the leader, and then it was a video about like the beginnings of the school shootings, and they mentioned the year 2012 in the school shootings. And then I remembered in the, I don't even want to say the name, it starts with a P, the documentary that talked about him, that they mentioned something about he was kind of missing between 2008 and 2012. And so I was like, is that true? Like, because my gut said, secret operative, with a goal that earned him a higher status. And so I don't know if operative is the right word. Like, I believe that he came to this country and figured out a way to manipulate our youth and made it happen. And they've utilized that blueprint over and over again. That's my gut. That's my, the way that I see the patterns. Like, I feel like sometimes there's like, it's like weeds, like reeds, like when you wade into some water, it's like reeds. It's icky, but you gotta like, like kind of look between the reeds and see further. And so it's kind of like what it feels like when I'm like going through stuff to find a pattern faster. It works a little faster than that, but it's just like one of the skills that I've developed. I've lost a lot, okay? I've lost a lot of skills, and sometimes I wonder, is it because I had head trauma and refused to believe that I was going to be, breathing through my mouth forever? No offense to anybody, but like when you've been injured and you find yourself catching flies with your mouth getting dry, you're like, wait a minute. Like, I used to think, I used to have thoughts, I went through that period, and I would just keep thinking, like, I learned that doing like word finder puzzles. I'm not that great at crossword, so like word finders and Sudoku and stuff like that. So anyway, and so I noticed that. And then, you know, my grandpa, he fought in World War II, and I would spend a little bit of time with him here and there, and he had like this white American sedan. It was, I want to say, oh goodness, what was that? It must have been, maybe it was a Chrysler, and it had blue pleather interior, and it was like all slippery. And so I would hang out with them, you know, and I was really little, so I don't really remember a whole lot about what he talked about, but he did talk about, you know, call me bastard Nazis a lot. And so that left an impression, you know, it left an impression to where my whole life I've always been like, you know, like I remember even when they said the Cold War was over, and I was like, you think, like, I don't know. I think I had in the back of my mind, I'm sure there, you know, my grandpa was like, never trust them, you know, stuff like that. And so, I have that inner speculation, and I have learned through years and years and years to keep that to myself, that sharing the speculations would cause problems, and so I would just keep my mouth shut. I learned that anything I said would get back to the person I said it about, and so to be honest, I have said things knowing that it would get back to the other person, you know. So that's a thing, that's real. I did that. You know, a lot of people did that. But my point is that I am worried that there's a lot of pressure that we're going through, and we can all feel it, and we all know there's like all of this BS that's happening, like bureaucratic and stuff like that. And so I'm looking at things through the lens of getting to see the hospital before the COVID change, and the atmosphere and the culture, and it was different, like way different. And I remember the, you know, like, what do you call it, administrative changes, which always leads to changes in policy. It's like they come in and they're like, okay, like I gotta like, you know, like gotta like, I'm gonna stretch out, you know, like what have these fools, you know, ahead of me done? Like, I think that's dumb. I think that's dumb, you know, and that's what it seemed like to me. I was like, why are you doing that? Really? Oh my God, I can't. Sorry. Scroll. And so I saw it start to crumble, and I was speaking up, and I know, like, I'm like a peon, you know, but I still was gonna say something, you know, like I've learned because of life and freaking addiction, like, okay, we're driving down the street, I see a cop up there, what, I'm gonna tell you there's a cop up there, even if I'm in the back seat, you know, like, I don't care if you don't want to hear anybody talk. I mean, I'm just making that up, but like, I'm gonna say something. That was me back then, you know. And so, like, that's a transferable skill. I transferred that to my, you know, like, aligned morals and values, but I still have that passion. And so, you know, that means having the courage to like buck up when you need to, and saving it for when you really need to, and knowing when to keep your mouth shut and just pay attention and kind of, you know, retain all the information that you found. And it sucks that I've been through so much that my brain literally has allocated more room for shenanigan sensing than it does for daily functions. And that's the world I live in, and it's not it's not really one of those things that I can really change. And that's why I'm like, is it like from head trauma? Did things get like, and like new freaking neural pathways get formed? Like, I don't know. But I do know I have learned to pay attention to certain things, and this pattern has emerged. And so, you know, I've mentioned there's like this pressure about like, do the right thing. But at the same time, it's disingenuous. It's ingenuine. Wait, how does that go? It's not genuine. And so because of my spidey senses that I've, you know, mastered, I can feel it, I can sense it, that the BS that the hospital went through and eventually folded to is being emplaced in, sorry, my vocabulary is not as good as my idea. There is. Doesn't really, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. And so, like, for instance, I've heard, you know, that clinical settings have had new management that have come in and changed policies that, you know, were created out of need, that were created out of a need that is of this day and age of, you know, like, things progress. And so policies are being reverted. We are seeing just this shift that's sudden. And so I definitely know we need shifts, but I just worry because the way that the employment industry is just gnawing through employees, like, we end up with the bottom, like, no offense to anybody, but like, you end up with people who are learning, and okay, like, maybe it might be great because you'll be able to like teach them and program them, but not really. If you're too hard on them, they are not going to stick around. And so, like, what I watched was management come in and completely mistreat the employees, disregard their thoughts and their feelings when they were in certain departments. I saw, you know, like, people with not a whole lot of qualifications. No, that came out wrong. People with not a whole lot of experience, okay, like maybe with a fresh, not even, maybe just working on a degree that it would take, they will be hired and brought on. But what it looked like to me is that they were just hired on to be a scapegoat. And as a recovering addict who has seen all of these plays, you know, they're scammy Connie plays. Connie? That's not, sorry if there's any Connies out there. That was dumb. I don't know. And so, but like, conning plays, and it's just really unfortunate because I don't want anybody to have to have gone through the things that I went through to be on such a hypervigilance that they're noticing these things, you know? But also at the same time, I'm worried because our government stopped talking about Cold War. They created a law against propaganda, which took away the ability to communicate with us in a very clear, direct way. So what has happened is that instead of having clear, like, signs of propaganda, you know, like trying to get people's minds to be on the same track for, you know, like, national security, they've shifted to Hollywood and are weaving morals and these things into the entertainment industry, but that's tricky and dangerous, because if you're weaving a moral into a story and you're not entirely savvy to like how they end up editing it or presenting it, like it might get lost, or it might end up kind of morphing into something else, you know? And so like, if we are going to be a united country, we have to have some common threads of morals and values. And I totally believe that we do. So this is another part of the pattern, is that the people that I talk to, like even when I was like working at the hospital and stuff, like individually, we are so common, like so common. We have so much in common. And sorry, it's like late. I've been waiting for my phone because my kid had it. I just want to get this video out. But you know, like we have more things in common than we do separate. But we get, because of the other propaganda media is, you know, social media, and so they have literally perfected. My language center is. They have perfected subliminal messaging, you know, and the whole idea behind subliminal messaging is technically mind control, but I mean, like that's we associate those two words together as like crazy, speculative, you know, but you do have to admit that we do know that retail companies, etc., have studied ways to get us to buy things. McDonald's with the colors that they use, like Cinnabon with like the way that they, you know, like do the smells and stuff. So that is proof that that's a thing. So as soon as it's a thing, our government is going to want to understand. And I mean, I think that's a safe thing to do. But, you know, the unsafe part is where the greedy people are like, oh, actually, now that we have this information, let's sell it. Let's, you know, give it to the people who give us the most money when the lobbyists. And so we have this economy that's running behind the scenes that's driving us, because the ones that have the money are going to be the ones that have the info of how to steer us. They're going to be the ones that have the money to do all of the, you know, big theatrics that like make our eyes sparkle. And so we are programmed to consume these images and black and white and connection, you know. I think that's part of it. Is a lot of people, it's like the only connection they have anymore with other humans. And so as we search for connections, we're being bombarded with other freaking negative outside ideas. Like, I truly believe that there are powers at play that want us, that need us to be at each other's throats, because they're not going to be able to do whatever they're planning unless we are so weakened that we will not be able to stand up for ourselves. And that means getting, you know, for them, they are believing that getting neighbors to hate each other is going to create a weakened society. I'm here to remind us all that we're Americans, okay? And yes, we can get off track, okay? And, you know, as much as I hate to admit it, I even get bamboozled, okay? And that's how I know what I'm talking about, okay? This is a lot of getting bamboozled and seeing the signs. And so I just want to share some little pieces that I don't expect to change anybody's mind. I'm not trying to get anybody, please don't like go down rabbit holes, okay? But just enough so that you are just paying attention and then see what grabs you, you know, like, is there something in your area that like all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, hold up, like what? Okay, so time out. Okay, we need to go over some tactics. Okay, so number one, you gotta play it cool. Okay, you gotta play it cool. Don't get fake, don't get cheesy. Just put it in the back of your mind. Okay, you don't want it up front. Okay, if you notice something, you put it in the back. You put it in the back for later. Okay, you go about your business. And because here is something that they will use against us. Okay, the fact that we have a question in our mind because of the way we're programmed right now, it's going to come out in our face. It's going to come out in our language, our body language. Like, the other person on the other side is going to feel it. And in that moment, they have no idea what's happening. And they've probably been under pressures by other people. And it's highly plausible that whatever it is that you're thinking might have been created to make you think that. And I'm not, okay, look, there are going to be people that this is not in their wheelhouse, you know, like there are different kinds of people for a reason. Like, there are people who are type A personality because we need that. Like, we as human organism, like, we need different freaking, you know, like, sections, different functions. And so people who are the type A and like really neat and organized and stuff, like, they're not going to have as much emotional capacity because they're using all the resources for that. And while we have the capacity to like cover all the spots, it takes a really long time and a lot of hurt to get close to that. And I don't think anybody could ever really, I really feel like I've got a circle plate and a little square napkin, and I'm trying to cover, you know, like, I don't get to unfold. I just got to like try to cover as much as I can. So like, I might be needing to you know, like, use a skill that's over here on the edge of the plate over here. That means some of my skills that lived over here, they're not getting as much attention. Okay, this is just, I have come to accept it, and that has helped my napkin grow a little bit. Okay, but so there are really important ways to be able to absorb, you know, because it's not going to be, I have found it takes patience. And so I'm not sure like how much, you know, I have no idea, you know, and I don't want to be like, oh, the sky is falling. Oh, you know, like, because I mean, people have been saying that forever. Maybe there's like groups that did experience that, you know. Sometimes I wonder, like, maybe there were groups, you know, like with the plague, like, you know, and it didn't happen everywhere. So because it didn't happen everywhere, people kind of feel like it wasn't an end times or something. But kind of, if you were in that place, it probably would have been. But I am getting off track. I just want to just make people a little more aware that that there could be bad actors, there could be instigators amongst us. I remember in 2024, well, 23 and 24, seeing a lot of Texas plates. I saw somebody that was staying at the motel who was really quiet and reserved and a little bit spooky. He got Washington license plates, but we were living in a motel in Oregon. And so that part was like, I was like, what? Okay, like maybe he drove up to Washington to get, you know what I mean? Like maybe somebody else got the plates and sent them to him. Maybe, you know, like those kind of things stick out to me. That's because those are kind of things that pop up in the criminal world, you know? And so I worry that Texas was first, you know? Like, if you look at Texas, had a really hard time for a minute. Like, what is up with weather, too? But that's a whole nother thing. That's getting out there, okay? That's fringes. But I reserve the right to explore. But right now, this feels like more substantial, and it just in the way of being more aware, like people in the 80s were. And so, you know, I've contemplated, like, what if World World War II actually ended a little differently? What if it was a deal and they said, we'll let you say that you won, but you have to let us do these things, like continue these experiments or something? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I wonder, because I know that I have had experiences. What was that? I swear, I just looked over and it looked like something like that. That was weird. Oh my God, I'm gonna sound like I'm really crazy. Maybe it's just the crack of my screen. I don't know. But what was I saying? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just want people to be aware. Oh, just the Cold War and stuff. Like, I just don't. I think it's really ignorant to have gone decades, without having campaigns that bring people together. Instead, what I'm seeing are campaigns that separate people, and that is a pattern. Like, they used to have campaigns to bring people together when there was a war, okay? We need to come together before the war. So that is what I've done throughout, or I did, I have done throughout my life, and knowing that if I'm respectful and kind and supportive to people around me, even if they have differences of opinion, like, we as a whole are going to do better. And so if I want to do better, I need other people to be doing better, or we're all going to be going down together, like my neighbors, my coworkers, my family, my friends, and so, yeah, and not everybody listens. That's okay. Not everybody listens to listen, and that was a saying that I heard recently, and I forgot, and people listen to respond, and they'll hear something and want to hold on to that because they want to respond to that. And it's really hard for the rest of it to kind of sink in. And so, I sense like this attitude from family members that they felt like I abandoned them or didn't pour into them like I did other people. And I just have to say that when people are hurting and they're trying not to die while there's a part of them that is trying to unalive themselves, they tend to listen. They're desperate. They see somebody who's been through it and they want to know, and they absorb it. And it's going to be natural if you're in a place where you're not there. You're struggling, but I've been there where it's like so hard to let go of the struggle. You're not desperate yet. It's so hard to let go of the struggle. It's hard to hear the solutions or the inspirations. And so I don't fault anybody. I personally have ran out of stuff to give for a while, and I was just thinking of a roommate. I was just thinking a neighbor that thanking her because I've been not feeling talkative with other people. Like, I was having a hard time finding words, like worse than now, for a long time. I still struggle with phone calls, but I just wasn't there yet. And she would knock on the door. She brought me like little gnomes before. She's just like a person who has like a gifting love language. And, she came back and I finally softened, because it's just how I am, I guess. And so like I had an opportunity today to thank her because it's really easy for people like me to be caught up and overlook the fact that she kept coming and I wasn't ready, and here she is, and I'm ready, and I'm so grateful. Like she has a spirit, you know, she's following that pull, you know, even if it's a person that said, go check on Dixie, who knows, right? Amber, go check on Amber. Like, even that is spirit, you know, even if somebody, I'm not saying about her, but even if somebody out there had like or somebody, you know, they think they have bad intentions, they come in, like, my God will flip it and turn it into information or inspiration or blessings, you know? And so, yeah, I just want people to be able to look out, but also act right, you guys. You cannot be coming for each other. This is not how it's gonna work. We have to set it aside. And you know what that means? That means just biting your lip, biting your tongue, just muscling through it for a second, because not every battle is gonna be beneficial. Today, I heard an old lady, okay, complaining about housekeepers and stuff like that. And there was a part of me that I was like, you know, I could like pour, you know, some wisdom in there, but at the same time, there's like, I know the way brains work and stuff, like, not that she's not worth it. Sorry, I'm just picturing, I'm like feeling the energy. Not that it's not worth the time or energy to try to impart some different wisdom. It's like, I have to look at, you know, like, where is she at in her life? Like, what has she been through? Like, I'm not saying that any person that's on the receiving end of that deserves it, but also at the same time, I'm like, is this woman who's working at the freaking clothing closet, you know, like, who just happens to be complaining about something, maybe she just feels like that in the moment. Maybe later she'll get over it, you know, like, I processed it and I thought, you know, I don't think that's right now to jump into a conversation like that, you know. And so I chose to stay out of it, you know. And she's just an old lady who's set in her ways, and, you know, like, okay, she's my elder. I'll tell you what, if I'm around somebody and they're doing that to another person, that's a whole nother story, okay? Whole nother story. That's an opportunity to not only educate maybe somebody, but also just be there, shoulder to shoulder with somebody, and say, I get it, this is messed up, this is like, this sucks, and this shouldn't be happening, but like, it is. So hey, I'm gonna stand next to you, and I'm gonna say, you know, like, that's fucked up, don't do that, you know. I get it, you must be having a bad day, but let's not do that, you know. And so that's how I see the world. Not everybody has been through all the things to get them to that point. I mean, you got to imagine what did she go through to get to that point, okay? Because that's a trip, okay? And you know, like, I share bits and pieces of like the craziest of stories with my family and with patients and stuff, but like, nobody would ever be able to know all of the things that I went through. I want to come out like that. All of the things that I went through over 7 years. I can't even remember every single thing I went through, you know? So I don't fault anybody if, you know, like, they felt like there was a part of me that was hidden away, you know? But I just feel like everything happens for a reason. I'm not mad. I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I saw things and experienced things that you know, not everybody experiences, and not, you know, like, shouldn't be experienced. And so now's my chance to give back, you know, like, it's hard in the moment. I didn't even understand when I was going through it, when I was in addiction, like, what was happening. But I knew I had to keep going, you know. I knew when things were not right, and I chose at times to become a mirror, an echo, you know, an echo, so that people would hear back what they were saying, and it earned me a reputation, and I just rolled with it. You know, I didn't complain. I took responsibility and accountability, and I'm glad, because it got me to here. It got me here, right? So, you know, things happened after being in recovery and, you know, finding freedom. And so instead of being mad that hiccups happened after, I am really grateful that I had that recovery, because I know what reality can be. And so, you know, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have this understanding. And so I have to use all of those pieces to have the concepts that, you know, and be able to hopefully kind of point out some things that don't sound like some fantastical freaking conspiracy theory. Because, I mean, like, we could all, you know, speculate. Well, maybe not everybody has that in them, but, you know, I could find people to speculate with, and we could really have fun. Like, not fun, like, because it's funny, like, theories, but, like, we could really come up with some wild theories, just brainstorming, you know? And so I'm not trying to do that. I just want to, say, just keep an eye out for instigators, and maybe jot down some notes, you know? Really, I think that's probably most, like, beneficial thing to do at this time. Like, if you're just now, like, you know, realizing that you've been through a lot of BS and a lot of pressure that's not normal, and you're feeling at odds with other people, and you're seeing relationships fall apart, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, you just kind of have to take a step back and look at people's patterns, because the instigators tell on themselves inadvertently. That's human nature. And so, like, what that looks like is, you know, like, having favors, pitting people against each other that you don't even realize they're doing it. But if they're giving some people special attention and then not other people, or trying to make it look like they don't give this person special treatment to that one, or and vice versa, that they're not, you know, like, that is an instigative behavior and pattern that could be perceived as just, oh, well, they have friends, you know, like, they have those friends, and they have those friends and stuff. And which, yeah, we can have different friend circles, but there's difference. You people that have been through it, they know it's, you know. And some people may have been trained, literally taught to be instigators, and have blueprints for psychological warfare. And then there are also going to be people who have been through it so much that they've adopted it unknowingly and just keep repeating the same cycles, because that's what they saw people who appeared to be succeeding were doing. But they weren't succeeding. They were probably plants. I mean, that's okay. I'm getting a little bit stretchy right there, but, you know, like, if you look at how things are kind of going, like, you know, companies where it's the friends that get hired, or, you know, like, the people with less qualifications get the raise or the promotion and stuff. You got to ask, like, what's really going on? Because favoritism is a red flag. So yeah. Okay. I think that's my inspiration for tonight. It's not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm not trying to call anybody out. Okay. I mean, I got receipts. I'm sitting on some stuff. I know that there are people who probably think I don't know things because I don't say them. But just because I don't say them doesn't mean I don't know them. And that's not, like, I'm not trying to be like some encrypted, like, I want them to think I know stuff. Like, it hurts. It hurts. And it's, I still forgive, you know, and, but I don't know. It is what it is, right? I find acceptance. I'm not gonna let it tear me apart anymore. I think I had to, like, I had a blister, you know? Life gave me a blister for a while. And it's finally like that, where it's like dried up. It's like satisfying. You can get that piece of skin off. Okay, too much. I'm sorry. Welcome to humanity. Hey. Okay, love you. Bye.